Well, let's start with that top story. The wife of murdered anti-apartheid icon Chris Hani is accusing the Constitutional Court of being a dictator. This follows the country's apex court ruling this afternoon that Hani's killer, Janusz Wałęsa, must be released on parole. Wałęsa was previously denied parole by Justice Minister Ronald Lamola. Hani, who was the SACP General Secretary in 1993, was assassinated outside his East Rand home. Let's get you the very latest from our senior reporter, Aviwe Mtila, who was in court today. Aviwe, very emotional scenes outside the Constitutional Court. And I think it's fair to say a lot of people were shocked because there have been so many applications on the part of Chris Hani's assassin to get parole, and he's been denied all the way. Take us back to that judgment and the details of it. How Raymond Zondo, Chief Justice Raymond Zondo, explained how the Constitutional Court got to this, importantly, unanimous decision.
Unanimous decision, Sally, as you mentioned. I understand seven justices of the Constitutional Court all agreeing on this particular judgment. So in painting out how they got to that decision, Chief Justice Raymond Zondo went back to the first time that the application was made in 2011. You do understand that already in 2005, Janusz Wałęsa was already eligible for parole, but only applied for parole back in 2011. Was granted, in fact, that the parole board recommended that he be released on a parole, but then the minister then denied him. That went to court, and it's been a back and forth then for over the number of years of going to court after being denied by a particular minister, that decision being turned back, reviewed, and the minister being told to reconsider the decision because there is that issue of the powers that lie within the Constitutional Court as well as the powers that lies within the minister. But now we do understand that in coming to this particular decision, the current Correctional Services Minister, Ronald Lamola, refused this parole application back in 2020, saying that there are two factors, agreeing on all the factors that stood for Janusz Wałęsa, but except for two factors. That was the nature and the seriousness of the offence, as well as the sentence remarks that were made back in 1993. So the Chief Justice and the other justices suggested that you are agreeing with all these factors that spoke of the behavior during the time of the incarceration, the risk of reoffending, saying that it was very low. The applicant has shown remorse, yet you base your decision on that two factors, and those factors are unlikely to change. But I want you to take a listen to the Constitutional Court Chief Justice Raymond Zondo and the remarks he made when he made the judgment.
I've reached this conclusion against the background that the applicant served more than 25 years of his sentence of life imprisonment, during which he has kept a clean disciplinary record and has complied with every requirement he has been told by the prison authorities he should comply with in order to improve his prospects of placement on parole. In the circumstances, I'm of the view that it is just and equitable that this court should order the minister to place the applicant on parole. In considering whether or not the applicant should be released on parole, I've been mindful of the fact that in assassinating Mr. Hani, the applicant sought to derail the attainment of democracy in this country and nearly plunged South Africa into a civil war. However, I've also borne in mind that the fathers and mothers of our constitutional democracy, I'm going to repeat that. However, I've also borne in mind that when the fathers and mothers of our constitutional democracy drafted our Constitution and included in it the Bill of Rights, they did not draft a Bill of Rights that would confer fundamental rights only on those who fought for democracy and not on those who had supported apartheid or who were opposed to the introduction of democracy in this country.
Yeah, it is a very interesting judgment because you get a sense that this was not particularly pleasant for Chief Justice Zondo to deliver this, but they were looking at the law and the facts of the law. But of course, Chris Hani's widow, Dimpa Hani, was very emotional, very angry, fuming outside court. Let's take a listen to what she said to you and then we'll chat a bit more.
This court has not even addressed the victims. I don't exist. He is busy giving us a lecture about a Polish man who came to South Africa to kill my husband. Do you understand how I feel? Now he tells me everybody is equal in South Africa. So as far as Zondo and Co., they are corporate, whatever they call close corporation in our border, constitutional court. I don't know why it's called constitutional court. This is dictatorship at the highest. This country is finished. As long as we have this court led by Zondo and this club of his, we are done. We should forget about this country. That's why I say, Lindy Sulu, may she live long. She's the only one in this country who saw through these guys.
Yeah, and of course she was also swearing, and that was broadcast live. She was very, very angry. You then spoke to her off camera a little bit after that interview, and she had a few things to say. Tell me more.
She told me about her emotions right after. Remember that we're speaking to her on camera moments after that judgment was delivered. So I had a chat with her just a few minutes later just to see how she was doing. And she apologized in saying that she actually blacked out during that interview. That's how furious she was. But she stood by her words. Nothing except for the strong words that she used. But what she was saying there, she said she stood by quite firmly. And she also tried to clarify, trying to stay away from politics, saying that while she stands by her words in Lindy Sulu and what she said about the Constitutional Court, she is in no way supporting her or anyone in the current ANC in terms of their leadership. It's not her position or her stance on who should be supported, but she was just merely making a point on Lindy Sulu being vindicated in the remarks that she made earlier on in the year when it came to the Constitutional Court.
SACP, you spoke to them as well, visibly shaken, you know, and let us not forget what an awful day this was. This was an act of treason. It could have completely derailed our fledgling democracy, and Hanis was originally sentenced to death for that crime. So he's going to be a free man. Is it absolutely a done deal? Because Raymond Zondo is saying in 10 days he has to go. Is that it? Because we've always been told the highest court in the land you cannot appeal. But of course we have seen Jacob Zuma bringing rescission orders, etc., etc. So is there any leeway to stop this release?
So that's the conversation that I had with Crispin Piri from the Correctional Services Department, the spokesperson there of Minister Ronald Lamula, just to find out what's the way forward. And they did say that they'll be now conversing among each other to see exactly what they'll do then going forward, respecting the judgment from Chief Justice Raymond Zondo. But you mentioned that, of course, this was a death sentence initially. We heard those strong remarks, even from the Constitutional Court. I don't want to take away from what they say in terms of that's the heinous crime in itself, how it could have led to just an outbreak of disaster in the country, how it was planned, Sally. They sat for weeks, we heard from the Chief Justice Raymond Zondo, planning this murder of Chris Hani to the T and executed. It's something that was premeditated, but of course mentioning that everyone is equal in front of the law and therefore the law must take place in all the equality.
Mm-hmm. So at this stage, he will be a free man in 10 days unless, as you say, the Justice Minister, there's some way to challenge this, which doesn't, I suppose, at this stage look likely. Thank you so much for bringing us the very latest on that. Senior reporter Aviwe Mtila.